Hey guys, how are you doing? Just testing to see if my audio works. Hold on. Testing. Yeah, I think it works. Should probably move this way. So, I hope you guys are well. We have Alchemy stream today. And yeah, I'm hoping a few more people get in here before we really get going. There's 21 people so far. Yeah, that's right, Patrick. This is the Alchemy Lab. So, getting my house in order, and this is the Alchemist Laboratory. So, yeah, it's getting there. The stream health is okay. It's at orange, so it might experience some difficulties. You know how the stream goes. I have really shitty internet, so okay, it's gotten better. All right, so today we are talking about the elements. So I wanted to I was thinking, what do I do next? What do I talk about? I feel like I've exhausted a lot of alchemy talk, but there's never-ending stuff to talk about, and I figured I'd just go down the lesson that is in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn book by Israel Regardie, and lesson 1 is the elements. That's like the first thing that they bring up, and there's a lot of elemental talk in alchemy and all of this stuff, so I figured that was a good place to start. And sorry, I get distracted. I should really not look at the comments because I get super distracted, and I feel like I need to move still a little bit. Yeah, so elemental talk, and I was doing a little bit of research because I felt like some of why I haven't been streaming Alchemy Stream a lot is because I never really have time to do the proper research, and so I feel like I'm not really doing a good job just blabbing about off the top of my head, and research is always good. Well, no, I don't have any lights pointing at me, but I do have the settings cranked up a bit, which I like. So, I mean, as you can see, you can't even see the difference between my hair. Can't see the textures in my hair. and you can't see the difference between my hair and my shirt because they're both black. So it's really not that much light on me, but it is cranked up a little bit, which I like. Kind of like this look right now, so I'm fine with it. It looks cool. Right, so alchemy 101 basics. You know, alchemy is a universal teaching of the development of the human being and spiritual growth. And I think that sounds really exciting. A lot of people are interested in spiritual growth. And there is a lot of misunderstanding of what spiritual growth is in modern culture. You know how modern culture totally has ruined everything. And if we start with the concept of the spirit, what does spirit mean? And the last 100 years, that word has been totally abused. People think of it as feelings of music and art. They think of spirit with ghosts, and they think of it about a discussion of God. But let's look at the etymology of spirit. So let me see. Let me look this up and see what I can show you guys on screen. Let's do a little research together. No, not Beyonce. What the fuck? Etymology of spirit. So let's go through this. I think I have to change the content card. Hold on one second, guys. Cool. Let me just check on you, see what we have going on in here. Spiritual growth today means indulge yourself at your own will, as long as it's your will, it's spirit. Yeah, we will get to that for sure. That's definitely a good point. Let me move this around a little bit. Oh, I should also change Streamlabs real quick. Sorry, hold on. I can never get things going. Well, let's do, I still need contacts, funny, and ticket to America. So we will do that. The month is it August? Yeah, it's still August. No, let's do September. That should have refreshed. There we go. There we go. So yeah, as you can see, there is Streamlabs. If you guys want to help and contribute, I prefer you guys go there, because then I can get the money right away, not have to wait for the end of the month. And also YouTube takes like a huge chunk, so it really helps me out if you use Streamlabs. But I'll take whatever you can give, so do not worry about that. Okay, let's get back into the etymology of spirit. So in Latin, yeah, I was gonna say spiritus or whatever, breath. That's kind of the root word, is breath. And what do we have here? Being often, but not exclusively, a non-physical entity. No, see, that's what they fucking do nowadays. It's crazy. It's not really where I was going with it. Hold on. Let me see. I found the etymology, and there's in Sanskrit, which I think they say is like the oldest religion, language. It's called Atman. And that word means inner self, and directly translated refers to spirit or soul. Atman is the first principle, the true self of an individual beyond identification with phenomena, the essence of an individual. In order to attain liberation, a human must acquire self-knowledge, which is to realize one's true self, Atman. So spirit is like the true self. It translates in Latin to breath, and it is, in the Old Testament, the Hebrew word for spirit or breath, self, is, I don't know how to say this, man, because Hebrew words are crazy. It's like ruh, R-U-A-H. I don't know how to say it. And in Kabbalah, it's chesed, or chesed, I think. So I think that's how you say it. So it's interesting to kind of understand the root word of it. And if you think about it that way, it actually reminds me in alchemy of this, of the Emerald Tablet, which we went over before. And there's a part of the Emerald Tablet that says the wind hath carried it in its belly. And so breath and wind, the Emerald Tablet is a historical artifact in the world of alchemy, which has an extremely significant importance in the realm of ethereal. Hidden on this tablet is the reveal of a unique and profound spiritual technology that is both complicated and difficult to explain, especially to the uninitiated. So yeah, I don't know, it reminds me of this picture, which is cool. I'm not sure if that's exactly what it's supposed to be, but the image you see above depicts the wind embodied in a spirit carrying this vast knowledge in its belly, which is another way to indicate it has a heavy burden. So, yeah, the wind hath carried it in its belly, and it represents spirit. So, yeah, okay, fine. Let me see what else I have in my notes. I have picture in my notes. I'm still working on how to do this, guys, so bear with me, but I should have things a bit smoother. It's just hard to do the research and take all these notes and take all these pictures and then have to organize it in OBS, but I am working on it. I will get it smoother in a bit. Oop. Aw, Fox Mulder, you're so sweet all the time. Thank you for that. Thank you, Fox Mulder. You're the best. All right, let's get back to spirit. Okay, so I have alchemy stream. Oh yeah, I showed you the picture. Yeah, that was what I have in my notes. So when we talk about spiritual growth, it is not about, when we talk about, it is the growth of our being, the emergence of our Christ consciousness within us. It is not about the growth of the terrestrial person, the physical human person. It is about the inner self, getting, like I said, to that Christ consciousness. I think that may be a New Age term, but that's pretty much what Christ means. Christ is not his name, it's Jesus, but they call him Christ because he was like the anointed one, and the anointed one has like a meaning of like, let's look up the anointed one now. How do I explain this? It doesn't necessarily literally mean just anointed with oil, but it has like a root definition about it that means like they're touched by God, like they're anointed, they're the ones that have this like special ability. Anointed one. I'm just finding like the oil bit, anointed, but it has like that deeper meaning of like he is like the Messiah. He is like close with God. He is like the anointed one. So when I say Christ consciousness, like we all have that spark of divinity inside us that has to come out, or it may not, but it all lies within us. So when you come to like that understanding and have that ability of nirvana, Christ consciousness, this like supreme being, then that's what Christ is. So I like the word Christ consciousness. It makes sense. I guess, nirvana, or in Buddhism or what have you. So that's kind of what spiritual growth is about, is like going to that point, like working on your own self and your own spirit, and your own consciousness to get to that place. The emergence of our Christ consciousness within us. It is not about the growth of our physical person. It's the growth about something beyond this physical world. We're talking about the innermost Atman, or Hesed. So our true self. We're working on our true self. Though this spiritual growth, so when we do work on our spiritual growth, the terrestrial being itself does benefit, just like as above, so below. And in alchemy, that's a phrase that you hear all the time, as above, so below. That is what the six-pointed star is, the two triangles.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Martina.
Hey, Sandra. Hey, Sandra, what's up? Sandra, we wanted to tell you in the Discord that we wanted you to join it. So if you do want to join our Discord, that would be really, really great. We'd love to have you in there. I know you're not into the social media stuff, but it's a bit different because it's a really lovely place. It's very positive. It's very artsy. So that could be a really fun place for you to have replaced like Twitter or whatever. It's not volatile in there. So if you want to join the Discord, I don't know, just send me an email. I got your last email. Thank you about that. Sorry if I haven't responded. So yeah, where are we? As above, so below. So as our inner self will be purified and have growth, our outer self will also. There is a difference between our physical self and our inner self. In alchemy, it is the philosophical earth. And just like in the Bible, man was made out of earth. And from that dust earth, God breathed life into Adam. So there's that breath, his godly breath is blown into the earth to make consciousness and to make human life. So that is spirit, it's our inner self. It's that breath of God that sparked creation in us. So that's really cool to understand that. So spirit is this breath. Our consciousness is an agent of that spirit. So being conscious, having that awareness is an agent to tap into that spirit and to communicate with that spirit and to deal with that spirit. And spirit is the root of our soul. And in the Tree of Life, the root chakra, Malkut, let me show you guys what that looks like. Malkut means kingdom, and kingdom means earth, right? So it's like if you're in church or whatever and they say like kingdom or whatever, it's like it means like this physical earthly planet. It is the physical most physical plane of existence that you can be on. It's the physical realm, and it's the most basic one. And Kether, I think that's how you say it. Kether, I was listening to something and he was saying it differently, and I was like, oh shit, I think I'm saying Kether wrong.
I'll mail you my phone number.
Sweet. But yeah, let's bring up maybe Let's bring up the yeah, I think that one looks good. And this is another one, the Tree of Life, I want to show you real quick. Yeah, that one will do. So, yeah, the one all the way at the bottom, that is Malkuth, and all the way at the top is Kether, the crown. And so that lowest level of existence is the physical plane, and the spiritual plane is the one at the top. And right, and so this goes into the comment that someone said about the modern day spiritual enlightenment. And the problem with modern society is that they think that spirituality is about me. Spirituality and religion of the left, for example, like feminism and like those hippies and stuff like that, will have you think that spirituality is about me. And they just want to adorn themselves. They want to wear certain things and act a certain way so that they can feel and say that they are spiritual people. So spiritual. Oh my God. I remember meeting one of those kinds of girls at this thing. Oh God, she really pissed me off. And in the Golden Dawn, they actually talk about this ego a little bit, which I might want to look into. I hate reading things to you guys when I haven't looked at it myself because I suck at doing that. But let me dig it up. Yeah, Patrick, that's why Adam and Eve are stewards, because they were in charge of a kingdom. Okay, so let me look up this Golden Dawn thing. Okay, ego. It's a bit long, but it looks really good. Ooh, that was a better version of the Tree of Life. Shit, I deleted it by accident. Just get to this. The proper attitude towards mind body. Over the past 50 years, I've insisted that serious magical students seek a course of therapy as a safeguard against some of the catastrophic results which appear to overtake too many of our promising students. The difficulties seem to arise from the following: the superego and the HGA. The confusion between the Freudian superego, the unconscious infantile consciousness, and the order's concept of the higher and divine genius. Many students, as well as those not involved with magic, often substitute a form of their infantile conscious for one form of higher self or another. This can lead to nothing but disaster. Instead of being guided by a higher genius, the person is really at the mercy of infantile voices and values, so-called brain chatter. Not only does this cause undue individual suffering and deception, it also causes a complete halt to any real progress in the theurgetic arts and sciences. To a large extent, this confusion contributes to the often bad reputation students of the occult possess. Those of you familiar with the history of the order can find glowing examples of this folly. However, there is no need to delve into this deeply. Almost any group or order has members, often leaders, who have fallen headlong into this pit dug for the unwary. The inflation of the ego. There is a frightening frequency of the occurrence of the inflation of the ego, sometimes referred to as infantile megalomania. To help the student understand this difficulty, let us define the healthy ego as a computer type decision maker. The ego's function is to help the person make decisions based on hard data. The purpose of this function should be that of survival and personal fulfillment on various levels or planes. In one sense, the healthy ego is more or less non-personal. It realizes cause and effect in Malkut and understands its limitations. So again, Malkut means kingdom. It means the earthly, physical realm of existence. So it realizes cause and effect in this earthly plane, and it understands its limitations. On the other hand, infantile megalomania is a natural occurrence in infancy, and with proper development has been outgrown by the healthy adult ego. However, while this is the ideal, it rarely occurs in practice and requires some form of therapy, Eastern or Western, to accomplish this goal. See, when they say therapy, they're not talking about going to a therapist, so keep that in mind. They just mean well-being for one's, mind. In the practice of magic or anything which releases unusual amounts of energy from the unconscious, the infantile megalomaniacal substructure is reactivated, and all the illusions and delusions of self-importance and evaluation of babyhood reemerge. This flattery overwhelms the ego. The person takes the impersonal and universal nature of the powers he or she experiences as if he or she created the powers or experiences by what they call themselves. And this is what we talk about, and what that comment from Patrick was talking about, is they make it about themselves. Now, it is about your inner spirit and your inner soul, but that's not really like a selfish yourself. Like this is about a greater spirit that we're dealing with. So it's not so much me. It's about selflessness. It's about I would just say selflessness. That's the true power of being pure. Let's go back to this. If this experience, called by Jung the mana personality, persists for too long a period, the person becomes egomaniacal and thoroughly self-centered. This can be observed in patients undergoing psychotherapy as well as in the so-called normal man on the street. This excessive self-admiration, or as Jung puts it, the naive concretization of primordial images, leads to an overinflated ego, which in the end leads directly to disaster and contradicts in toto the purpose of the great work. The great work is the alchemist's work. The great work, that's the elevation of the spirit. That's get to that Christ consciousness. That's what we're talking about, spiritual enlightenment here. So it can work directly against that if you focus on your ego and become self-centered and focus on the work that way. The student should be also cautioned that the opposite of infantile megalomania is not milquetoast humility and passiveness. The latter is the sine qua non of a deeply buried and potentially more dangerous form of infantile megalomania. The proper attitude towards the instincts. There is a danger of the blatant acting out of instincts, which has been distorted through repression and denial on the one hand, or their compulsive repression leading to a boring and unfulfilled sex life. Almost everyone raised in the current Judeo-Christian morality suffers an inevitable form, a totally distorted attitude towards this topic, as well as to all biologic functions in general. Therefore, a complete sex life, which is not only pleasurable but aids in the evolution of the soul, is totally out of the question. What is required is a healthy attitude towards all bodily functions, remembering always that Kether is in Malkut and Malkut is in Kether, as above, so below, but after another manner. Those involved in the great work have often found themselves falling into the camps of excess in one direction or another. For example, too much or too little. The proper use and enjoyment of sex is a necessary part in the discovery and development of the higher genius. I don't really want to talk about Aleister Crowley and stuff like that. The problem of religion and the great work. I don't know. I feel like this is really good. There's like a few pages of this, but I think we get the idea of what we're talking about with the dangers of the ego. Let me see. I don't see a question. Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. I literally do not see a single question from you. Yeah, there's no question, so I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, so where are we at? Let me see. But when they talk about like the sex life and stuff like that, we're gonna get into it. I don't know if we'll get to it today because there's a lot to go through, and I tend to take detours. But ultimately, this will lead into how to use the sexual energy and that sexual root chakra and harness it in the proper way to open yourself up and learn about yourself and come face to face with your demons and your ego. So it is really about an inner dialogue with yourself, a direct connection between the inner self and the physical self. That's kind of what we're looking for with spiritual growth, like having that direct connection and being able to function outside of the ego and come face to face with things and be able to communicate with that inner self. Accessing that connection. Yeah, and so that kind of comes with not just believing in God, but knowing. You know what that spirit is. You know, you just know. So it's not a matter of believing. Like, you know that that's there and you know how to harness it. And in order to be able to communicate with your inner self and harness that and do all these things, we need to understand the elements in order to get to know your spirit. That's right, the elements. I know you guys are probably like, what the hell do the elements have to do with any of this? Okay, I'm just trying to read what you guys are. Okay. Let's go back to this. So we're getting into the elements now. That's how we can have a direct understanding to get to know yourself, your spirit. So space. Think about space. And you'll see in some ancient texts, and whether it's the Vedic text, stuff in Buddhism, Taoism, whatever, and like in the Bible and stuff like that, there are some ancient texts and they talk about just a vast space, and from space there's air, and air to fire, and fire to water, and water to earth. I mean, that was like literally creation in Genesis. That's kind of how it happened. It's the space, and there's air, and then there's fire, and then there's the waters, and then the earth. It tells me to refer to the Golden Dawn, page 54, but I don't know if I should. Maybe we'll go there. There's a lot to go through. So, let me see if I want to go through it. Okay, page 54. Let's see what it says. That's not the right one. Yeah, I'm not going to go through it. Sorry, let me just, let me just like go to a break. I need to do a break real quick. I will be right back. Hey guys. Okay, I think the internet is better. Yeah, we're green now. Well, at least we didn't like cut out, because that's really annoying when I have like a million different video clips for a stream. So let's see, where were we? Okay, so we were talking about what this meaning of spirit means and its breath, and how that relates to the inner consciousness of the self, the inner self. And then in order to be able to communicate with that inner self requires the understanding of the elements. And that's why you see elements, the air, fire, water, and earth in a lot of religions and ancient texts and stuff. So from space, there is air, from air, fire, the waters, from the waters, the earth, from the earth, plants, and from plants, food, and from food, man. And that outlines the unfolding of elements in a spiritual sense. And unfortunately, like we said, how modern day times, they have totally corrupted things. People tend to read into that as literal. And in the physical sense of earth, fire, wind, and water. And they think that that is its meaning. And there are some applications of that in the physical sense, just like in alchemy. I talk about as above, so below. There's the and the inner work and the outer work. The inner work is the work within yourself, your spirit, your breath, and the outer work, which is the physical existence, the Malkut, the the root chakra. So there is some correlation, but most people don't understand that, and they just take it to mean purely literal. And let me see where I'm at. Yeah, the ancient religions and the scriptures meant things to be in a spiritual sense. From the spiritual point of view, physical matter is at the lowest, like we said, Malkut, and the most unimportant aspect of life. We need physical matter, and that's why we have physical bodies, but physical matter dies, okay? It is impermanent and unreliable, and so the scripture was written for not for physical purposes. It was for spiritual purposes, because spirit does not die. And that's why when I got that, someone was trying to throw me a trick question about Jesus and the highest form of God, and it's a very strangely worded question, because one doesn't really talk about the highest form of God, but I was trying to make sense of their question. And so with this understanding of the physical world not being the highest form, and Jesus in the in this physical realm as a human, that's how I interpreted the question. I was like, no, because the highest form is a spirit of this unknowing, the Yad He Vav He, the unknowable, the unspeakable, something that we cannot comprehend in this dimension. So that was my interpretation of the question. But yeah. So from Atman, the inner self, space came into being. And Atman is the Sanskrit word that literally translates to self and breath, but it does not mean our terrestrial self. It means the spiritual self, and some people call it the real self, our real being. And in Christian terms, we call it our inner father. Let me just double check on you guys real quick. Okay, we don't have no super chats or anything yet? All right, guys, no worries. let's see, where are we? We were talking about the spirit. That it's in Genesis there is, and Eretz, I don't know how to say these things, earth, was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Rach Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. So from Hatman, space came into being. And those are the first words of Genesis. That formless and void is the absolute. And in Hebrew, and you have to remember Jesus spoke Hebrew. Okay? He was Jewish. And in Hebrew, that void in space is called Ein. The Ein Sof and the Ein Sof Or. Ein Sof Or? A-U-R. Ein Sof Or? I don't know how to say it. But that means Ein Sof Or. Ein Sof Or is limitless light. That's why you get aurora, is light. A-U-R-A. So it means limitless balls of light. That's what Ein Sof Or means. It's limitless balls of light. And that's what the formless absolute void is. And that's actually a funny story. I had an email that I had ladyalchemy.ainsofor, and yeah, I just remember it was like really annoying to try to give people my email. Aw, Fox Mulder. Thanks.
Are there parts of the Catholic Church that officially recognize or are involved in the theological study, application regarding alchemy?
That's a good question. I should look into that, really, because that would be an interesting place to go to. I mean, the three magi's at Jesus' birth were magi's, were magicians. They were priests, so and Jesus was into all of this kind of study, and we'll get into how this breaks down and how it relates to Christianity. So there is a correlation. Now, a lot of these esoteric theological studies groups, like the Rosicrucians and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and stuff like that, they have Christian roots in them. So it is the Western form. So like I said, there's the Vedic text, there's Chinese alchemy, there's alchemy in its own kind of version that exists all around the world. But the form that I'm particularly knowledgeable about is the Western version of alchemy, and that has a lot of Christian Catholic roots, but I'm not sure if it goes the other way around, where there's the Christian church or Catholic church that recognizes alchemy in a sense. I would love to look into it and find someone that really knows about the study and doesn't just freak out and go, oh my God, heresy, because I don't believe that to be true. And as we will go and learn and study a little bit more, you will see how we constantly talk about this inner father. It'll make you understand ritual mass a bit more, Catholic mass. And there's a lot of stuff when I started studying alchemy that made me understand my Catholic faith a lot more. I was like, oh my God, this goes really deep. They're not just random rituals. They're not just random prayers. They're not just random things, and you do it because you're supposed to do it because that's your religion. There's a deeper level of understanding about it. And so that's what alchemy taught me. So I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. And I hope that there is some parts of the Catholic Church that do officially recognize it. And I would love to be associated to that. I would love to look into that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly, Patrick. Alchemy is not part of the Catholic teaching, although a lot of alchemists are in the Catholic Church throughout history. So it does go one way. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's see where we were with this. Yeah, the limitless balls of light. And it is the level of beingness that is empty, ultimate, the repository of all potential. It is not nothing, but it is also not something. That is this space. So that's kind of how I was viewing the Yadhe Vavye.
No super chats. Sorry. I'm running around like a human squirrel gathering hurricane supplies. I already canceled my New York trip this weekend so I can board up my house. Face screaming in fear.
Oh my god. Oh no, that's crazy. Hey, nice to see you in here. Nice to have you. I'm sorry that you're running around and getting ready for this hurricane. You must be in America somewhere a little bit more southeast. Is that where it's happening? Like the Florida region area? Good luck with that. I will send my prayers. And the visual of you running around like a human squirrel gathering supplies is funny. I'm sorry not to laugh. And I'm sorry I had to miss your New York trip. As a Mets fan, I mean, were you going to go there to see a game? Let me know about that. Were you going to go see a Mets game? What, in Queens? Is it? When I'm in New York, I'll let you know. I'm moving back soon. Miami. Yeah. I knew it was like Florida or something. Aw, it's so nice to see you and have you in here. You too, Sandra. Okay, where are we with this? Okay, so as this limitless light, as it comes into being, it becomes, no. Yeah, so it is like, it comes into being into, in Sanskrit terms, it's called Akash, I think is how you say it. And that is the root substance of everything. And yeah, it is the seed root of all things, the root energy. So from this space came air, and air came fire, and fire came waters, and waters the earth. And that is where you can see the four elements: air, fire, water, and earth. And anyone who has studied philosophy knows about these four elements. You see them all over the place. And basically in every major tradition of the world. Like I said, in Chinese alchemy, or just in the Chinese spirituality, whatever, I call it Chinese alchemy. I studied abroad in China in 2006, and I had to write a 10-page paper, and I was like, I hate writing. But I always tried to make school work for me, so I decided to write about something that I would get something myself out of. And so I was like, is there alchemy in China? So I started looking into it, and there was. So there's some really fascinating versions in Chinese. Yes, it's very different, but there are a lot of similarities as well. But yeah, these four elements are in ancient Chinese, Babylonia, Greeks and Romans, the Taoist, Hindus, Buddhists, and basically like every tradition you can, in various ways, they have talked about the four elements and the importance of it. Yeah, again, humanity is very foolish, taking things so literal. And scientists today would read these ancient texts and laugh at the ancients and think it's absolutely ridiculous that they think that everything came out of these four elements, because scientists are reading it literally. They think it's all just literal, and they're like, this is absolutely ridiculous. That they think that everything was created just out of the four elements. But the fools are not the ancient philosophers. The fools are the modern people who don't know how to read and understand what was written. Okay? Those are the true fools. Oh, Ed said, nope, the Mets will be in Philly this weekend. I go several times a year to visit my friends and family. I am a Jersey boy. Oh, no way. I lived in Jersey a little bit. Okay. So let's see, where else are we? Patrick says scientists are literally autists trying to read poetry, interpret it like something that's material. Yeah. Absolutely true. Fantastic comments, Patrick. I love it. Thanks for being in here. So where are we? Hold on. I want to have a drink real quick. My energy drink. Yeah. So if you've read any of the works of Paracelsus, Aristotle, Plato, Lao Tzu, Krishna, and all of them talk about these elements. Paracelsus is a great alchemist. You guys should look into him. They talk about these four elements in every religion, like we said. But they are talking about subtle energies, psychological, spiritual forces in nature, in everything, in every level, from the absolute down. The space, the absolute, comes into being. That is the manifestation. Hold on, let me just check where I am in my notes. Yeah, that process of creation is where the space becomes air, fire, water, earth. Everything that exists emerges out of the space, and that's what they talk about in Genesis. And okay, so the term air uses what?
Was that an energy drink or in a White Claw face with tears of joy?
Yeah, it's an energy drink. Can't even see it. It's too reflective. It's a silver can. But yeah, it's an energy drink. I have a really fucked up schedule and health situation right now. I just drink energy drinks and I stay up way too late. Okay. Where were we? Yeah, so these elements like air and stuff like that are an archetype. They are an allegory. They are used as metaphors, as a way of understanding something that is not physical. So if you think about it, what is the quality of air, right? Can you guys think about the qualities of air? Movement, something subtle, something that is not fixed and solid. Air in ancient scriptures and stuff is also refers to vibration of energy, and it moves rapidly. So there are associations to these elements that we can think of. Just think about air. It's like little particles moving around really fast, you know? There's qualities of air. So those kinds of qualities you have to think about with these elements. That is what we're referring to, the quality, the archetype of air. So the elements represents qualities, not physical matter. So space represents expansiveness, right? The expansiveness, the vastness of space. Air represents mobility, just moving fastly, you know, it's air. Fire represents temperature. Water represents fluidity. You know, water doesn't have a form. It's formless and, you know, can fit into anything. There's fluidity about it. And earth represents solidity. It's solid. It's a solid mass. It's fixed. It's firm. Yeah, fire has the quality of temperature. There is heat and there's cold. Air also has temperature. It also has fluidity related to the waters. It also has the potential for solidity related to the earth. We also see these four elements really relate to qualities of matter and energy. Qualities. Okay, sorry. Let me just double check with you guys real quick. Let me see. Sorry, one second. Okay, let's see, where are we at? Yeah, let me bring up some images actually that work with what I'm talking about. I keep forgetting to show you guys some images. I'm bringing them up. Okay. Okay, so here is one image. And you can see the four around here. So you have on the bottom left, that's earth. On the right, fire. And then you have water. Oh wait, no. Why is that one red? Because I can see that 69 looking figure. That's Cancer. So that's a water. That's associated to water. I don't know why they painted that red. So that one's water. But yeah, those are the four ones. And in the middle, you can see that there is a human. And you can see that it's actually on the left a woman and on the right a man. So there is this masculine feminine duality, and that's why, again, also I don't believe in that whole gender social construct shit that there's like a million different genders. There's really two. That's what it is. It's the yin and yang, masculine, feminine. That's what it is. It's the elements. And we'll get to that. This is another alchemical image that depicts the elements as well. So these triangles, you see the first one has a triangle upside down with a line through it. Then there's a triangle upside down, and there's a triangle upright with a line through it, and a triangle upright without a line through it. And those are the symbols of each of the elements. I think that first one with the line through it's water, because that's my association is water. So I always tend to recognize that one the most. Yeah, that's an old alchemical imagery. This one, we'll get to this in a little bit, but this also represents, again, this star is actually human form. If you can see it, the hands and the feet and the head. And so there's the four elements with those triangles. Okay, the upside down triangle with the line through it's earth. Oh, water's just upside down without the line. Okay, that's what that is. And spirit, that is that breath, the quintessence, that life source energy that we've been talking about. And that is the fifth element. actually. So, yeah. Let's go through this. Okay, let's see, where are we at? Okay, and this way we can understand that these four elements are just a deeper condensation of the three qualities. Hold on, let me catch up to what I'm talking about here. Okay, our descent into matter. Okay, so how does this affect us, these four elements and stuff? And at the ultimate root of our self is space. We understand that. Inside that space is Atman, our true self. That is the Ein Sof Or. And what emerges out of that Ein Sof Or is ray of light, the ray of creation, the finger of God. It passes through that space. And the four elements are the differentiating qualities of the consciousness as it enters into manifestation. So those four elements, like I said, are not physical. They are this concept, and that stuff, those elements, as they move through that Ein Sof, or that space within us, it enters into manifestation. A long time ago, when that spark of light descended out of the absolute, when our spark first came into matter for the first time, like Adam and shit, we did not come into matter as human being. We came into matter as a simple spark of light. Okay, so I guess that's like creation from Genesis. When that spark first came into being, it was a simple spark of light that needed to learn, grow, and develop. So it starts out at the lowest level as a simple mineral element. We started at the bottom as an elemental simple spark of consciousness in nature, and slowly we developed through many eons through the kingdoms of the elements. The elemental kingdoms are minerals, plants, and animals. And so when you study alchemy, those are the three different types of alchemical laboratory experiments that we work on. The first one is minerals. So you do mineral work, and then like there's another level of like plant work, and then there is also animal work. So that's actually really interesting, because study of alchemy and stuff has those different levels. And I just check on you guys sometimes. Okay. Ooh, shit. I just went out of it. Gradually, while simple sparks in the mineral kingdom, we evolve and we become more sophisticated. Eventually, we began using plant bodies. And after a long period of time where that consciousness was growing in the existence at the plant level, we graduated and became animals. So that also kind of has like the creation to that. So we first came into the mineral kingdom, right? How the science talks about creation, right? It was like volcanoes and just like minerals, and there was earth. And then a plant formed out of that earth, right? Out of the minerals. Then there was plants everywhere. And then there were animals. So, and that is how our like evolution came to be. And so that's why I don't really understand when they make this whole difference between religion and and science, because it really does explain the science before even science explained it. So I don't understand why people make it a fight between them. We graduated and became animals. What here is called food, really the elementals are food in the cycle of nature. Even we are food for nature. Gradually, after many eons of development, we became more knowledgeable and experienced with the inner relationship between consciousness, matter, and energy. So then we entered into the humanoid kingdom. And that is where the elementals who are in the humanoid bodies. We are animals who have intellect. We now, as someone commented, find ourselves in a mess because we have been in the humanoid kingdom for so long that we have made so many mistakes and that we forgot where we came from. We forgot who we are, and we need to relearn this. That's why the alchemy is so important to do this work, because we graduated from the different kingdoms and became these humanoid. We were now in the humanoid kingdom, and that is supposed to be like a super conscious level of existence, and we totally have been throwing it away. So that's really sad. Yeah, so let's get back to this. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, the fifth element, quintessence, spirit, whatever. So in alchemy, there are 5 elements, not just 4. We sometimes don't acknowledge like the 5th one when we're just talking about the 4 basic ones, but that 5th one is where those 4 come from. So there's space, air, fire, water, and earth. Space is the first element to emerge out of being, which relates to the absolute. From space comes air. From air comes fire, fire, water, and then earth. Let me just catch up to my notes, try to understand what I was trying to say. Yeah, in many cases, the other 4, like I mentioned, are the ones that, the 4 basic elements, because the 5th one is the secret. And it's usually left unexplained, that 5th element. Yeah, if we study the scriptures of alchemy in the West, we can find a lot written about those 4 elements, and some alchemists, such as Paracelsus, even condensed it into 3, yet the 5th is always there, and we may talk about it in probably the next lesson, because this one's actually, like, I knew this would take forever. We're already at almost like an hour and a half at this, which is crazy. Tyler, I don't know why YouTube deleted, or Streamlabs or something. Yeah, I think Streamlabs punished you, Tyler. I don't know why retarded is a bad word, but okay, sure. Sorry about that, Tyler. Okay. Let's get back to this. Oh no. Did I lose my spot? Okay, hold on. Psychologically and spiritually, space represents expansiveness, like we've mentioned. And if you've ever studied Chinese Taoism, it's all about the fifth element, space. And the way of the Tao is the way of being expansive, all embracing, all awareness, all encompassing, non reactive, capable of receiving anything and not being disturbed, because there is so much room in oneself. Air symbolizes the psychological and spiritual quality of mobility, flexibility, movement. Fire reflects the spiritual and psychological characteristic of temperature, our psychological temperature, our spiritual temperature, and this relates with our temperament. So think of temperature, temperament. It deals, our temperament, it relates to fire. It's the fire aspect. So again, when we talk about this being archetypes or whatever, I'm repeating myself a lot because I want you guys to kind of understand exactly how this is working. The air is mobility, it's movement. Fire is temperature, temperament. The fourth is water, which relates to fluidity, the ability to be spiritually and psychologically fluid or flexible. And earth, which is solid, firmness, to have a strong conscious foundation, a powerful strength, willpower, its stability. These 5 elements in any scripture symbolize these psychological and spiritual qualities that we need to develop and understand. Let me just double check my notes. Okay, we're going to get to some good stuff in a little bit. Yeah, so the primary importance to us is how these elements relate with the nature of our consciousness. Like I said, so there's the consciousness, there's that spirit, and then we're dealing with elements.
Streamlabs wants a lot of info to set up. Might check it out when I have more time. Smiley face.
Oh, thank you so much, Artemisia. It's so nice to see you in here. And yeah, sorry about that. Thank you for trying out Streamlabs to help me out. No worries. I'll take it any which way you can give it. So I appreciate it. Oh no, Hellbound, you gotta leave. We're just about to get good here. Okay, let's get back to it because we're almost getting into some really good part. Okay, so yeah. So the 5 elements symbolize psychological, spiritual qualities that we need to develop to understand. So we have that spiritual entity, and then there's like the 4 elements that come out of it. So how does this really all connect? Primary importance is for us to how these elements relate with the nature of our consciousness, not our personality, not our mind either, but consciousness. This is where these 5 elements are most important in qualities of consciousness. They do reflect into our qualities of our ego and our personality, because the ego and personality are created through the misuse of consciousness. Yet, since ego and personality are impermanent and not trustworthy, what we really need to grasp is how to utilize these 5 qualities with the free, awakened consciousness. When we study these 5 elements, we find that there are many attributes related to them. So it's not just the attributes that I've explained just now. Let me just bring this picture up here. So there's this, and you can see that there's a lot of other attributes associated. I mean, there's many more than this. There's planetary attributes, there's the horoscope attributes, there's body attributes to your body where it really, oh yeah, we do have the planetary one here. Yeah, there's elements, and there's all sorts of stuff. So there's many different attributes that relate to these elements. And as you get familiar with like the associations of the attributes, you can start to understand how to maneuver in this world, and how those are really important to these elements. They start to come together and make sense of how the world kind of fits together. It just makes sense. It's beautiful. So the attributes are used. You start with the basic 4 elements. Then you start learning the other attributes and the other attributes, the other attributes. And then you can understand how those maneuver and work in this world. And you can end up controlling those attributes and those elements. So let me go back. Just reading what you guys are saying. Yeah, well, I'm talking about serious stuff right now, so I'm not doing the zoomed in thing, but I think the zoom in looks really, really cool and artsy. So, I mean, whatever. Art stream, we can zoom in. Okay. Yeah, just like I said, these attributes and relationships are really important, and they become more important the further you go along in your spiritual process. By working with this conscious energy, these qualities can be developed, invoked, and nourished. So there's a lot of stuff that talk about all this and the elements and stuff in Hinduism. But like I said, I'm not that familiar with it. So sometimes I have things that kind of relate to that. But I tend to want to avoid that aspect because that's not really anything that I really know about. And I don't, I know more of like the Western version of this, so I try to just relate alchemy to that Western version. I don't really know Hinduism very much, but like it is parallel to you know. Okay, just repeating myself here. Yeah, so this stuff may seem theoretical and unimportant to you, but if you want to have any real impact in changing your life and helping to influence the lives of others, this stuff will become really, really, really important to you. Now, think about it. Like, a lot of people want to be like spiritual. They're spiritual and they're hippies. People want to be priests or priestesses. And the goal is to be someone with power, right? So why are all these like, oh, I'm a witch or whatever on Instagram or Twitter? It's like why is that important to people? Because they want power. And where does a priest or priestess get their power? And the ancient word for priest is maj, okay? And if you've ever heard of the 3 magi's or the 3 kings, they were magicians. They were priests that came to Jesus' birth, the 3 magi. And maj is where we get the word magician. So a priest or magician is someone who knows how to work with the forces of nature, both outside and inside. Let me just double check what you guys are talking about. No, alchemy is not just science. Science came from, it was birthed from alchemy, but alchemy is both the inner work and the outer work. And if you check out my previous alchemy streams, I talk about that a little bit more in depth. There's the inner work and the outer work. The outer work is the physical chemistry, science aspect, alchemy, chemistry. It's the physical stuff. And the inner work is like the Carl Jung, the psychological, kind of stuff. But an alchemist works on both of those aspects at the same time. So it's both inner and outer work. If you're just doing the inner work, then it's just psychology and philosophy. If you're just doing outside work, then it's just science. But to put them together and see how they work together, that is what alchemy is. Okay. Yeah, so the three Magi's. Yeah, so, for example, Moses. Moses was a great priest and magician. He commanded water, the air, the fire, and the earth. He commanded them outside of himself, literally, physically. Same with Nicholas Flamel, Basil Valentine, Paracelsus, Hermes Trismegistus, Jesus of Nazareth, Krishna. They were all magicians or priests. Okay, so that's why I constantly have to explain this all the time when people freak out about this stuff. I'm just like, ritual mass is a ritual. It's literally a ritual. They're doing spells. Okay, that's what mass is. It's literally called a ritual mass. Nothing wrong with the magi, magic. 3 Magi's came to Jesus' birth. Magicians, Magi's. Jesus was a freaking magi. It's all related, and that's why I say this stuff just brought me closer to the faith that I was raised, because it made me understand it on another level outside of just mere repetition and doing things because I'm supposed to, because that was the religion I was raised. It made me have a deeper level of oh my God, this clicks. It makes sense. So the power that these people that I just said, Hermes Trismegistus, Flamel, Jesus, Moses, was that they had and still have is the ability to harness their power of the elements, and the power to command nature, is the ability to conquer, to command, to control these elements.
Love you, Martina. Can you comment on Madame Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society?
Oh,
in the turn of the 20th century.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, great question, and love to see you in here. Thank you for that super chat. I remember in 2000, I don't know, 8 or something, coming across that stuff and seeing old pictures and things like that. And it was very fascinating, but I never really got into the depths of her society or anything else like that. But from what I've gathered, it seems like she did great work, and I don't think it seems like anything that was taboo or edgy or whatever. I don't have too much to say. I think it's a great work from what I've heard of, but I tend to look into scriptures and, I don't know, maybe I will look into her a little bit, because I do like Flamel and, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and things like that. So I never really got into her too much, but I'm familiar with it, and I think it was pretty good work. Yeah, I never really, I'm not into the Crowley thing. That's why when it came up in the text, I was like, and enough of that. Yeah. Maybe I will do another, I'm going to screen cap your comments, Michael, because I am going, and maybe that would be a great research and topic for another stream that we can get into. I just want to vet everything, and I don't know a lot of her stuff or what she was really teaching, but I think it was all the similar stuff that we're talking about right now. So Okay, bye Mario. Thanks for coming around. Okay, so yeah, the power to command nature and is the ability to conquer, command, and control all of the elements: air, water, fire, and earth. And that begins not outside of oneself, but inside. Okay, so you can have these abilities to command and control things. In the physical world, but it first takes a command and control of the inner self in order to do that, and the elements of the inner self, and then you can control the elements of the outer world. We have to first command these elements inside of ourselves to control our own kingdom, our own earth. When we can command those forces in ourselves, then by the laws of nature we can command them outside. As above, so below. Again, as above, so below is always going to appear. If you can control the forces in your own earth, physically, psychologically, spiritually, you can do it outside. This is also accomplished by understanding that these elements are not matter in the form we think matter exists, which is dead matter. Okay? Matter is not just lifeless. We have the very mistaken idea that matter is inert, lifeless, and dead, and that is totally wrong. So if we see like a cup of water, we just think it's just water. It's lifeless. It's lacking consciousness. We think that water is just made up of a bunch of atoms and molecules, right? It's just H2O. That's it. And minerals just sitting there. And that's it. But that is not true. Even in Hebrew, the word for water, which I don't even know what it is, but I do remember reading this, is that the word for water means giver of life. It gives life. It has life. It's alive. Ooh, new subscriber. Hello, Techno. Bobber. All right, where are we? Similarly, when we read any scripture, we read about the elements. We think of physical elements, and that physical elements are dead matter, right? But we are wrong. Every atom in nature is a trinity of matter, energy, and consciousness. And I think that even in old...
You dig a role-playing game called Mage the Ascension. Mods could explain it to you. You play modern-day mages, and yes, they're alchemists.
Yeah, that is awesome. A lot of my time researching this stuff, I ended up coming across a lot of video game stuff. Even Sephiroths, which is the Ain Soph Wars, the limitless balls of light. They're called Sephiroths on the Tree of Life. And it just all these video games always pop up stuff. So I was really annoyed at it at first, but now it's kind of cool. And yeah, I'll talk to Miles about it. I'm gonna again screen cap your comment, and we'll have a chat about it. Maybe he'll help me make a video game character, and I can be an alchemist in the virtual reality as well. Jay, you shut up about those Sephiroths, okay? And that's right, Tyler. Plants are technically alive. They're live beings, and I do mean technically. Yeah, that's always what happens when I look up this kind of stuff. That's right. It was annoying at first, but it's kind of cute now. Whatever. It's cool that it's still existing in this world and people can understand it, even if it's through gaming. So it's cool. It's a way of getting people to subconsciously understand what's going on. Okay, so let's get back into this. So we were talking about the nature of matter being conscious and alive. It's not just dead elements. Every atom in nature has matter, and every atom in nature has energy. Those we can verify easily. We do not realize that every atom also has consciousness. Now, yeah, in old like organic chemistry books and stuff like that, I do remember them talking about, I don't know if anyone's taken an Orgo, but there is they would talk about an ether. They would spell like, not like ether as in like gases, but they would it was like an energy. So like I think even in like an atom there's a little bit of like matter, but like it's really just like a lot of air and energy that kind of binds the universe together, and that is what they would call ether, like AE, but like it's like attached. It's weird. I don't know what that is. And they ended up kind of, I think, like taking that stuff out of textbooks after a while. And that's what I'm saying, is that science starts to dip further and further away from alchemy. But if we start to understand the relationship of how it originally started, I think there's a lot more information that modern science is excluding, and it's not good. Technobobber, that's a good question. We will get into the sexual energy a little bit later in this lesson. Hopefully we have time for it. Why is Streamlabs deleting comments? It deleted that comment, Technobobber. I don't know why. I have to like look into Streamlabs and fix their like, please refrain from using foul language. You didn't even use foul language. You were talking about a legitimate thing. So I am sorry about that. But yeah, that is actually something that this lesson goes into. Yeah, we'll get there, and it's really interesting. Sexual energy is something to be harnessed in the proper way, and that's exciting. Conservative UK, no, like Streamlabs, I don't know if you can see it, but it chastises people. It says, Technobobber, please refrain from using foul language. Like, it yells at people like it's like our mom. Yeah, dude, Streamlabs, a little too strict. That was a legitimate question. Like, chill. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so those textbooks and things like that talking about this ether and this energy, and like, so all these atoms like have consciousness, and nowadays actually, okay, so yeah, I'm bitching about science like taking that away and like pushing that stuff aside. However, I have mentioned also before in the past in other streams, but like things like quantum physics, science is starting to understand that actually things kind of do have a bit of consciousness. They're starting to recognize that...
Sorry, I'm late, but it's my mom's birthday today.
Ooh. Happy birthday. What, we're not even in Leo anymore. What are we? It's like Sagittarius or some shit. Happy birthday, Ma. Yeah. So nowadays they're performing experiments in quantum physics where they're discovering that the consciousness of the scientist affects the experiment. When the consciousness of the scientist is observing the behavior of quanta of light, the light changes its behavior. If that quanta is not being observed, it behaves differently. So, God, I had so many visuals to bring up with you guys. I may try to go over this topic again in a little bit, but it's just like frustrating because I don't have this smoothly where I can just transition. But let me see if I have any photos that relate to this. Just doing all the research is so much. Yeah, so I've talked about like the double slit experiment before. Let me see if I can bring that up. Double slit experiment. There's a really good YouTube video actually about this stuff. but I don't have anything that can really show it. That video, maybe I can play it sometime, is really good, but it shows how there are like little particles of light that react differently. Like they create, so when they put like slits on this like board or whatever, and the particles of light go through it, you can like view the formation of the particles of light, and it creates like a certain pattern, right? But scientists realize that after, like, that if they weren't observing, the particles of light created a totally different shape. And it was like, what the fuck? And then they keep trying it, and it's like when it's observed, it does one pattern. When it's not observed, it does a different pattern. So they have no idea why, but these particles of light are reacting differently if it's being observed or not. And that is where you get that whole, it's a quantum physics thing, actually, where you get the whole, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? Because if no one's there to observe it, does it react in the same way? So it's really fascinating because quantum physics is, I think, the closest thing to understand that there really is consciousness and energy out there that, like, it behaves differently. It's crazy. Let me see. Okay. Let's get back to this. There's two things about the quantum physics thing. They're just talking consciousness. Oh yeah, so the consciousness of the scientist affect the experiment. Not only like the whole observation thing and particles acting differently, but again, back in the early 2000s, I was working on practical alchemy. And so I was doing some basic like distillation experiment, whatever, and I was like researching and reading about that, and it was really fun. It was really great. I recommend it. Maybe I'll do it on a stream sometime or a video sometime. And I did an at-home distillation process. It was incredible. But as I was reading through this practical alchemy book, it was talking about oh god, that stretch feels so good. It was talking about tinctures as well. Tincture? I don't know if that's how you say it, but basically it's an alcohol-based elixir. And so when you take herbs, the medicinal, and you throw it into the alcohol base and leave it in there for like 7 days and 7 nights, that's right, just like the Bible and shit. Like literally, that's what they make a reference to that. There's some magical number to that whole 7 days, 7 nights thing. And the alcohol will extract the medicinal properties of the herb and put it into the alcohol, and then you throw away the matter. And so that tincture is like a medicine, it's an elixir. And they say when you make these elixirs to be careful about your energy, and your energy will affect the elixir, the tincture that you're making. And especially alcohol is very sensitive to that energy of the alchemist when you're handling it and working with it. And so yeah, that is something that I've read about with alchemy. But it's also really interesting because it makes sense. Think about consuming alcohol, and it has a really big effect on emotion. So that made me go like, holy shit, emotions, alcohol, like have this huge relationship. But also I think there was another experiment, which maybe I will look up this one, but it had to do with water. Water experiment. Yeah, I think it's Emoto. Yeah, so there's like this experiment with this like Japanese guy who would put energy out there to glasses of water and stuff, and just like focus on it and think of it, and it would create different patterns. So the energy of you being angry, like this is him saying like, you make me sick, and it's like, look at this ugly blob Oh my God, Adolf Hitler. And then there's just like love and appreciation. So it's like the photo on the left is in ice crystal frozen from severely polluted water on the throat. On the right is some water frozen after having been blessed by Dr. Emoto. One can plainly see that we do have the ability not only to heal ourselves, but our earth as well. So I don't know, this is like an experiment you guys can look up, but it was just this thing about, your energy has a vibration. Everything's a vibration. And that has an effect on things. So that's what they were talking about. I think this was the three things that he did. It was love, thank you, and I hate you, or something. And so energy has a vibration. And, so we're starting to see that consciousness really does affect things. Affect with an A. Hold on. Oh yeah, that's right, Lua. That's why they call alcohol spirits, because it's extracting the spirit, the medicinal property, which the alchemists called spirit, into the alcohol, and that's why you have alcohol and spirits, because a spirit alcohol is like an herb infused thing. And that's right, magic is just science we don't understand yet. Okay, let's get back to the notes here. Okay, so basically all atoms are like this. Every atom has a consciousness to a certain level, and all atoms have a spark of consciousness and essence, just like we have. So obviously the consciousness of an atom is not the same consciousness of a humanoid like us. It's a different type of consciousness, but it's still conscious of something. Atoms are much simpler because they are at the beginning of their manifestation, where the human organism is far more advanced. So like millennia ago, we were evolving at the level of atoms as a spark of consciousness. That was just the beginning to develop. And all atoms here and now are like that, beginning a long process of evolution, and only a few will reach the level that we are now. Similarly, only a few of us will go beyond this level to higher levels. So that is the goal of alchemy, to go even beyond this level of consciousness that we're at and to get to another one. But in general, everything has a consciousness at its own level. And we can compare the consciousness of a humanoid to the consciousness of a hydrogen atom in the same way that we can compare the physical body of a humanoid with the physical body of the sun. The scale is simply too huge to conceptualize accurately. Nonetheless, we need to understand that all atoms have a consciousness. So if you can just understand that concept, it's a different level. We can't compare it like exactly. We can't even grasp it, but it has an effect. And all atoms have consciousness in relation to the elements that we were talking about. And not only the atoms, but all matter and all organisms and all living things. And the magician, the priest, knows that and knows how to use it. Okay? So just think about that for a second. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Unique. Yes, Technobob, if you go to the beginning of this stream, I talked about that and how spirit means breath, and how God blew air, his breath into Adam to create him. Okay, hold on. Let me find. Okay, so like when Moses parted the waters, how did he do that? He commanded the elements of water, but it was not just the terrestrial body of Moses that did it. It was the innermost Moses, the spirit, the inner being, that worked through the human being to through the human part, through the psyche, and our consciousness enters into matter, into energy, to become that trinity. In order for that trinity to grow, our purpose is to become the power, take that power within, and filled with knowledge of how all things work. So we are able to, through the study of alchemy, understand how these things work and take that spark of God that is within us, that, the spirit of the Father, and be able to understand and utilize that to make things work. And that knowledge should give rise to a great love for all beings. To be a magician, we need to learn how these 5 elements work in ourselves, physically, psychologically, spiritually, and be able to control them and command them. So you should be able to be in control of these elements within you, and then you can control them outside of you. And it is not an easy task. This task requires an enormous amount of self-knowledge and a lot of study and training. So the kitty, she does this every time, like the same part. Kitty, whenever I'm 2 hours in, you do this. Meow? You alright? Meow? Meow? Anyway, it requires an enormous amount of self-knowledge and a lot of study and training. So these 5 elements that we are being introduced to right now is just a way to understand it, and to start seeing the patterns, and to start seeing them in yourself and in nature. And you will start to see it more and more and more. The more these elements kind of start to click and their attributes start to make sense, you'll see it everywhere, and you know how to work with them. And the 5 elements are living forces. They are not dead. They are not inert matter. They have a consciousness inside all of us and outside of us. Right. So, like, if you think about it, when we, even physically, they have an interaction, like all the elements. So when we eat, when we drink, when we walk, when we breathe, when we talk, we are using energy, and all that energy has been made available to us by a process of transformation through our eating, drinking, breathing, and through the energy of the consciousness that is active in our bodies. What? Kitty? The Fifth Element movie is fantastic. I was just watching it the other day. Epigenesis. Oh, yeah, that's always a really fascinating subject. Hollywood got set in biology. Epigenesis is the process by which plants, animals, and fungi develop from a seed, spore, or egg through a sequence of steps in which cells differentiate and organs form. Kitty, you alright? You alright? Yeah? Okay. Alright, well, we are 2 hours in. But let me see. I think we're like, I just kind of want to maybe finish this, but I feel like there still is a lot to go through. Yeah, so just like the atoms having consciousness, and magicians and priests know how to command it. And we use energy all the time to eat, drink, breathe, and we transform these elements into energy all the time. All these things, and our organs have a consciousness that functions. The elements in the body serve a purpose and function with a consciousness performing a role. They are intelligent. It is a complex system. And it all relates to the elements. Everything we eat and drink is related to elements. So when we eat a plant, we eat its matter, and the water is ingested as well with it, and it dies for us. It dies so that we can live, and therefore it is important to be respectful and be grateful. And that is why we pray at our meals, to express gratitude, the gratefulness of killing something that is conscious. So like if you eat an apple and you are taking in this living conscious thing and all the elements in it are conscious, if we focus on ingesting this apple and the consciousness of all the atoms of it, that can help us, to feed us, to nourish us spiritually, not just physically. The apple will feed us physically and keep us alive, but consuming the consciousness and understanding, being conscious of consuming that consciousness, will feed us spiritually. We do this physically for life, but we want spiritual life. But if we want spiritual life, we have to take in and transform that energy in a different way. Spiritual life also has its nourishments. We eat, drink, and breathe to live. We also need to live spiritually. Oh my God, Jack. Oh, thank you, Nick. Pleasure. Okay, so I think I will end it there just because it's been over 2 hours. Jack wants his dinner. And at least I got to a place where, we talked about the spirit, the fifth element, and the four elements, and, how we can take that inner energy, that inner light, and harness the four elements. And that's what magi's and priests do. And we can nourish ourselves not only physically but spiritually through the consciousness of the atoms of the things we are consuming. So that is really important and great. So I guess part 2 of the elements will do a really, really quick recap, but then we will get into more complex things with each of the elements and let me see, what it's called. Yeah, so there's just yeah, we'll finish this off later. There's just some really amazing stuff that we can get back into, and we will continue this conversation about the elements. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and maybe I'll just get back on tomorrow because I have all of my notes and I didn't get to finish the element stream, and I don't want to. I'm gonna do part 1. I don't want to separate it a week. I'm glad that you guys think it is interesting. If you do have any questions and comments or whatever, please send a super chat now before I make dinner. And oh, great, Never Cold. That's amazing. Thank you. Cool. All right. Well, I'll be on tomorrow, so we'll continue the elemental talk. I'll do a quick recap and then get back into it because there's some other amazing stuff that we can get into. All right. Bye, guys.